Week 1 is today. The information is here. On week 1, we're going to do orientation, get to know each other a little bit. I'm going to talk about reference tracks, and I'm going to talk about proper monitoring. And then on Thursday, I want to play back reference tracks. I want to have a reference track party, and I'll tell you what that is. But I want to hear 1 or 2 tracks. In this class, it's nice because it's kind of small. We can do a few. You're going to send me the tracks that blow you away from a mixing and mastering standpoint, right? Tracks can be impressive in so many different ways. They can be incredible on a compositional level with melody. They can be sometimes a great lyric. But sometimes, we're going to concentrate on the tracks that are just sonically the most amazing, right? And so I want you to, and we'll talk more about this in a second, but I want you to just pick out 3 tracks that blow you away sonically, and you're going to send them to me, and we're going to have a little listening session and a little bit of a discussion. So then next, on week 2, we're going to just talk about saturation. Saturation is so important in mixing. I can tell you in half a second if a producer or mixer was good with their saturation or not good. The tracks that you love have heavy saturation and high quality saturation. And it was something that you almost didn't have to worry about in the analog days because there was saturation on everything. You couldn't help it. Tape saturated, consoles saturated, tubes from tube compressors saturated, everything saturated. And you know what's really funny? In the 90s, people complained about the saturation. They were like, oh, I wish it was clean and clear and digital. I hate all this, everything's coloring my stuff. I just want the real clear thing. And as soon as we got the real clear thing, people were like, where's my saturation? It sounds thin and small and cold and anemic and anorexic and like give me it's so funny, right? It just what people wish for, oh, I wish we could get rid of this. Now we have plugins that we pay for to put the saturation back in, But saturation, look, ever watch a black and white movie? The poetry of that, it has, or black and white photography, there's a poetry to it. And, even when stuff is a little blurry, different filters, almost like when you're dealing with video, it creates a richness. Sometimes when it's just clean, clear HD, it's like distracting. Too much detail, too much intensity, no blurring, no thickening, not making it rich, makes it feel cold. And mixing and matching the two is really where ultimate modern production and mixing goes to. So saturation, we're just going to saturate for a week because all the great tracks I think you guys are going to send me, there's going to be lots of saturation. Tape saturation, tube saturation, transformer saturation, starting to know your saturation and how to use it, right? And that it goes on everything. We have a week of immersion in saturation. Decapitator from Sound Toys. A wonderful single band saturator. Amazing. That I want us all to be masters of because we can put it on everything and it's amazing. Tape saturation. What does tape saturation do? Why do we care? When do we use it? We're going to so week 2 is saturation week. Week 3 is reductive EQ, right? The bad engineer, the unenlightened engineer is all boosting, right? They boost above the garbage. If you look at all of their EQ moves, it's all boosts. The good engineer, lots of cuts. Cutting out where frequencies overlap. Cutting out where we want to make space for another instrument. cutting out stuff that digital audio just hates. Super low lows, sometimes in some regards, super high highs. Learning how to take away all the unnecessary stuff, or strange resonances, or anything that's unmusical. Take all the bad stuff away, and then you have the good stuff left, and then you boost. So we're going to do a whole week of reductive EQ. It's a huge part of our mixing foundation system. Huge. Reductive EQ, right? Okay. That's week 3. On the first day, we're going to just look at how to carve out individual instruments, so only the parts left that you need, and frees up space in the mix. And then also special reductive EQ tricks for vocals, right? Because they have usually recorded with microphones. They are almost always, right? They are always. And microphones have weird resonances. People's voices have some funny resonances that are unmusical. And usually recording rooms, vocal booths in rooms, have unmusical sounding resonances that we have to pull out. Okay, so reductive EQ. Week 4, compression. This is probably the most confusing part of basic mixing to people, compression. It took me the longest for sure to get really comfortable with it. And you'd either use a preset or you just touch it a little bit and hope not to mess it up, whatever it was. But it took me a while to get really, really comfortable. What does attack do? What does a release do? What does a ratio do? How does a threshold work? If I make the threshold more sensitive, it's more compression. If I increase the attack, if I shorten the attack time, there's more compression. If I lengthen the release time, there's more compression. And if I turn up the ratio, there's more compression. How do I control this thing? How do I control it? And why do I care? Why are there compressors all over the world of audio? Why? What do we need these things for? And how do you make these things behave? And how do you get the result that you want in a consistent way with compression? And we're going to do all of that. A week of compression. By the end of that week, you will absolutely feel much more comfortable with compression. And it's critical because compression concentrates the energy. It controls dynamics of human performance, a vocal, someone playing percussion, playing guitar, a human performance. But even in the world of electronic music, compression makes it more intense. It intensifies it, right? It creates an intensity. And just like anything else, if you go too far with compression, it gets, you make it less intense. You kill the energy. So, setting the proper compression amount is critical. It gets better, it gets better, it gets better as we decrease the dynamic range. And then when you go too far, you start to eat into the energy and you kill the energy. How do you set that so that it's right? A week of compression. That's the way this course is designed. I want to get everyone just into a 1 week headspace. So, I don't want to just, so that you, for the whole week, you dream about compression, right? It will tattoo it into you. Okay. Week 4. Week 5. Some subjects that don't take up a whole week here, but that we do have to deal with in mixing foundations. Sidechaining. Sidechaining is critical. It's not just French house that's sidechaining, right? Sidechaining is in every kind of music, country music, R&B music, hip-hop music, every kind of music. We want to create a relationship between two elements. I always say it's like the tango. In the tango, the one dancer steps forward, the other steps back, and they move together, right? That's what we're doing with sidechaining, right? The kick steps forward, the bass steps back. They're dancing. It's the tango, right? How do you make things all move together like a machine? Without sidechaining, it's a very stiff mix. It's a very stiff, kind of like bad dancing stiff, You get the sidechaining moving, everything's breathing, everything's moving, there's life. just from sidechaining alone. And we can do all kinds of things. We can make the bass duck to the kick. We can make background vocals duck to the lead vocal. We can make the chords get out of the way for a second for the bass. All kinds of sidechaining things we can do to make a system of sidechaining, right? So let's get our sidechaining right. Limiting. Limiting creates a lot of power. Same thing with compression. You go too far, you kill the power. Setting the right amount of limiting can create a lot of power. It takes sensitivity, it takes a little practice, but very, very doable. Additive EQ. Yeah, well, look, we're going to spend a whole week on reductive EQ, but sometimes we like to add EQ. You can boost. It's legal. Of course you want to boost. It's like, taking a sound, shining a flashlight on some part of it, bringing it out. This is the part of the sound I want to pull up front. Well, after you've cut away all the garbage, you can do that, and it works very, very well. So how do you use additive EQ? Transient design. Very unique tool. Allows you to emphasize the attack or the sustained energy of a sound, usually on percussive sounds. Doesn't really work on pads, right, or white noise. Works on usually percussive sounds, and you can shape the transients. Can be very, very powerful. So week 1, sidechaining and limiting. Week 2, additive EQ and transient design. Very, very basic tools. How do you use them? When do you use them? That's what we're here for, workflows. Week number 6, reverb. Oh my gosh. I always joke in the world of mixing and mastering, I always see everybody's scared of something. Some people are scared of brightness and they mix really dark. Some people are scared of bass. Most of us love it, but some people are scared of it. They put the bass where it should be and they're like, oh, must be too much. And they back it back down. It's right, but even when it's right, it sounds wrong to them or they're scared of it. Some people are scared of mid-range. They put the mid-range in this really good place and then they're like, oh no, it can't be that. That's too harsh or something. And they back off the mid-range. Some people are scared of reverb. They have these really dry mixes because they're scared of using reverbs. They don't know how to use them or they're scared of using them. And we're going to get into reverb. How do you set it up? How do you make a 3-dimensional mix? How do you make the sound fill the room? How do you make it sound big? How do you make a front and middle and a back in a mix? How do you do that? With reverb, for sure. What's a plate reverb? When do I use it? When do I use a room? When do I use a hall? When do I use a church? Or a mausoleum, a place of worship? When do I use these bigger spaces? When do I use a stairwell? When do I use a parking lot? When do I use this stuff? How do you use reverb? A week of reverb. That's all we're going to talk about for a week is reverb, right? And listening to all kinds of reverb. Valhalla, Altiverb, convolution reverb, space designer, whatever it is, different kinds of reverb, a week of immersion in reverb. Okay. Week 7, we actually mix in mixing class. Imagine that. By week 7 of an 8-week course, we'll be mixing the whole way. But this is when I'm going to give everyone practice stems and we're going to put everything together. Saturation, reductive EQ, right? Compression, reverb, and of course, gain structure and balancing and panning, all that stuff to make a basic mix. We're all going to mix together. And you're going to present a 1.0 mix, and then we're all going to listen to everybody's mixes, and then you're going to be like, I think I know what I need to do to my mix, and we'll touch it up, and we'll play the 2.0 mixes in week 8. We'll play the 2.0 mixes, and then I'll do a course review, we'll do question and answers, and have a little graduation party. for our like 2-month run up the mountain. I keep office hours every Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. I'll email everybody today. Just come and hang out. You know, if you have questions, I'm not going to do a presentation, but I will answer any questions for an hour. Just come and chill. And sometimes it's really social. And you'll see people from other classes, from Next Level Mixing will be there, mastering people. And it's just a kind of a question hour, question answer social hour to answer any questions. So you will all get an invite to that, and just come, just chill. And I'm happy to answer questions about anything.